Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the 3.5 Book Club, the book club where we talk about all things 3.5 and 3.5 adjacent, and sometimes ramble on about unrelated topics, as you do. I'm Cliff, and today I am joined by my co-hosts, as always, Lonnie and Charles. Lonnie and Charles, how you guys doing?
Not bad, not bad.
I'm doing pretty good.
So today I wanted to kind of start out with asking you guys like what has been going on in the world of gaming lately. You been doing any campaigns, any board games, any online gaming? What you guys been up to?
Uh, I've been playing a lot of online Catan on this website called Board Games Arena. It's pretty but outside of that, generic games, oxygen not included. Lots of oxygen not included lately. I don't know why I'm on a kick, but
I've heard that's really good. RimWorld is one of my favorite games, and I've heard that there's a lot of like overlap between those two.
I play a lot of RimWorld too. um, they're okay. They're kind of similar. I guess you could call them kind of similar because it's about keeping random NPCs alive that don't want to feed themselves and always want to do the stupidest thing to get themselves killed. So
That is awesome. Charles, what have you been getting into lately?
I'm running a Pathfinder module, the Emerald Spiral, and it's it's going pretty well. Players are level 13 now, and they're starting to come up with shenanigan combinations, which is it's fun to see the players kind of come on their own and figure out what's working for their character.
That is pretty cool. I always really enjoy. Well, I enjoy and I don't enjoy at the same time. High level Pathfinder, because at the first, on the one hand, high level Pathfinder is amazing, and you get to do just all this crazy stuff. But on the other hand, your turn can take like a half hour. You know, it can get crazy. I remember later I'm gonna talk about the Arcane Archer a little bit, but I remember I was running this Arcane Archer in Pathfinder one time, and he had so many different modifiers for his attack rolls. Like he would get like 8 attacks per round, and all would be at a different modifier. So I could never just like create any macros or anything. Like I'd have to roll every single thing and then add and subtract and all. Like his turns took a long time.
Yeah, we have a player like that where it's a war priest, and they have a lot of modifiers, and it's so many pluses and minuses. It's generally rolling it and then adding and subtracting the correct modifiers. Um, and I remember when I played a ranger, I had so many different macros for all these different types of attacks that I could or might not be doing against all these kinds of favorite enemies and the like, or not a favorite enemy. And it's a lot of work if you want to actually set up a macro for every single situation.
Yep.
And then the bard in the party gives everyone a +2 or whatever, and then it's like, oh man, this situational bonuses that you weren't ready for. A bard is something you could prepare if you knew the player and they like doing that often, but having height advantage or the like, there's a lot of modifiers in uh, Pathfinder, which can be a good and bad thing.
Yeah, I think it's a really good thing. I just, I also I think that if I were a more organized person, I would find it easier. But like, yeah, man, once you get to those higher levels in Pathfinder, especially as a ranger, or an arcane archer, or somebody who uses bows, especially if you have different favorite enemies and different like bane weapons and stuff like that. Like you're just like, oh man, like all right, I get a +10 to this one and a +6 to that, and then I got in this. Okay, I get another attack, but that's a -2 to everything, and then blah blah blah. Like it gets crazy.
And then someone's like, "Oh, did you remember I cast Bless earlier?" So you,
Like that means I would have hit that guy 12 turns ago.
been there.
yeah,
Every time,
every
every single
time,
time, every single
every
time.
time.
I have I have not been doing any Pathfinder recently as much as I do love Pathfinder. Um, but every like 3 weeks or so, I want to say like every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, depending. We've been doing this rotating GMs thing, so I've gotten to sit in on a couple of those, and they're very everybody runs a different. It's basically like everybody's doing a different one shot or two shot every few weeks. So we're running it in Starfinder, and it's like the last game. We we got sucked into the Matrix, and we had to fight Sylvester Stallone from Rocky. Uh, then we had to fight Arnold Schwarzenegger from Predator, and then we ended up in New York City and had to follow Bill Murray to the Zool building from Ghostbusters and fight Sigourney Weaver. Uh, and I ended up getting Rick Moranis as a familiar, and we ended the game facing off against Al Pacino from Scarface. So it was just crazy, man. Completely
That's
crazy.
that's a little insane. Personally, I would have gone with Al Pacino from Devil's Advocate, but what are you gonna do?
That is a good one. That's a very good one.
I haven't done it yet, but I really want to play or run a game where I just use a bunch of historical figures that no one else in the group would recognize, and as my NPCs, and just see how long, if forever, that I can get away with it, and have
Well,
their personalities and like in mind.
well, I mean, I know that George R.R. Martin did that, and it a lot of people still don't know. They're like, well, what's War of the Roses? What's that? I don't know what that is. And he's just like, yeah, I just did that. That's fine.
Yeah, it is quite.
And I put zombies in there and dragons.
Yeah. You put enough stuff over it, and no one will see it. Of course, also thought about you know Clif has done this before, or used elements of it, where you take a book you like, or book series that no one else in your group has
I
read or
resent
know
that,
about.
Charles. I have never stolen anything in my life. That is not
Oh,
something that
yeah.
I do on a continuous basis, always.
I mean, do you're not the only person. Everybody does that. Like that's just the most like go-to GM thing in the world is what's this random obscure thing that nobody else probably really knows about that it was really good book. I'm gonna steal that.
Oh yeah,
Well,
I steal all the time. Like that's all I ever do. I just steal.
for a long time, I didn't do that, and over time, I started stealing from myself, um, names and the like that I had for a town turned into an NPC, and the like, and I started reusing stuff, which is fine as long as you never get in a group with the same people. Um, and it was a lot of work. It took a lot of time, um, and yeah, there's nothing wrong with take these as long as, especially if the players are unaware of it. The important thing is that it's new to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a I don't know how old you people out there watching this are, but I'm old enough that I played these games once upon a time called MUDs. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, multiple user dungeons,
Love it.
baby. Let's go.
Love them.
Um,
Text
and they
based.
were they were run on this program that was used to be on every computer called Telnet, and they were entirely text based. You know, multi like D&D like set worlds essentially. This one that I used to play on, the main town that you would start in, if you didn't choose to start in the hometown for your alignment, was called Serengale, and it is my go-to name for a town in every campaign I run. I'm like, even not even just my campaigns, but like I play RimWorld. I'm like, oh, that's the name of my town. That's where my people live. Well, like whatever. I'm playing City Skylines. Oh, that's the name of my town. I don't know why. It's the one that stuck with me, and I use that name for a town in pretty much everything I do.
I dig that. And I think we've all kind of done that. Like I always whenever I play RimWorld, I take whatever starting town that the game recommends for me, and I put the words long and greasy in there. So like the Long Greasy Alliance, the the greasy town of greasy whatever. And that's it. That's the town.
I feel like it would be fun to play Stellaris with you if you played
Oh,
that.
dude, if you play Stellaris, we should hook up sometime because I play a lot of Stellaris.
I've never played Stellaris, but I'm super interested. So like we gotta talk about that sometime. I'd be down for that. So like
Awesome.
so today, like we're not gonna go over any particular book today. We're just kind of talking about general 3.5 stuff that we like because we're a bunch of nerds that love 3.5. And since we just kind of talked about prestige classes so much over the different episodes, and we're always like, we're not going to touch on that right now. Like we'll talk about that in the future. Well, I mean, why don't we just talk about it, now? So we just kind of figured we would each pick a few of our favorite prestige classes and just talk about what we like about them, what we don't like, or maybe, some of the prestige classes that we don't like that much, talk about those too. And that's going to be it for today. So I believe that unless anybody else is just really jonesing to go first, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and get to talking about my personal favorite prestige class of all time, the greatest prestige class, the one that's way better in 3.5 than it is in 3.0, the Arcane Archer. I love you, Arcane Archer.
This is one of those classes that I personally I changed the requirement for. I think it's BS that you can only be an elf or a half elf and to take this class. I get it. Ooh, elves use arrows, but elves aren't the only people out there that use arrows. Okay.
Yep, that is the first thing that everybody throws out. I mean, in Pathfinder, they just took it right out, and that's another thing I like. I think I've said this before, but just like removing those racial restrictions in Pathfinder. Like in Pathfinder, the dwarven defender isn't the dwarven defender; it's the stalwart defender. So anyone can be one.
Right.
But the
the exception to that rule, I think, for obvious reasons, is one of my other favorite prestige classes, the Warforged Juggernaut.
yeah, okay, I can get behind that.
You really can't be like, I grew spikes.
I had my bones replaced with adamantium and gears and wood. Like, man, that's okay. All right. But no, I love this class. And also, well, there's kind of a historic precedent for non-elves being arcane archers, which is Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. If you guys ever played that game,
I did play Dark Alliance.
the human is an arcane archer. So you got your dwarf fighter, your human arcane archer, and your elf wizard.
Huh.
So
I never even thought about that.
So kablam. There you go. But I just love this class so much. When I first played Neverwinter Nights, my character was a Ranger Bard Arcane Archer. And that's my go-to. I always go Ranger Bard because you have to have the let's see what exactly are the prerequisites here. Okay, so you got to be an elf or half elf, which we throw that out. Base attack bonus +6. Okay, so if you're going full ranger, you'd have to be level 6. If you were going like a bard or something, you'd have to be level 7. Okay, so they're generally around level 7, maybe 8 if you're a wizard. Got to have point blank shot, precise shot, weapon focused longbow or short bow. I've never known any arcane archers to focus on short bow. but it's cool that it's there. You got to be able to cast level 1 spells. Okay. So yeah, I think the way that I always did it, I took 2 levels in Bard because I actually forgot if this is the same in 3.5 and 3.0, but in 3.0, Bards didn't get first level spells at first level. They got 0 level spells, and then at second, they got first level spells. I think in 3.5, and I could be wrong about this, but I think in 3.5, you could get a first level spell at first level if you had high enough charisma. Like you could get a bonus spell.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you do get a bonus spell.
And again, I could be wrong. I'm not 100% sure if that's the case, but that's how I seem to remember it. But I just love this class because, like, look at this. So, number one, if you build it the way that I do with the Ranger Bard, so number one, you've got Bard songs, you've got, all the Bard skills, you've got all that stuff that you can do. You can't do it like as much as a Bard can, but you got a bunch of cool stuff you can do there. You've got like your Bardic lore, Bardic knowledge, so that's awesome. You have all the cool Ranger stuff, and the cool thing about uh, doing this as a Ranger is you see like you need point blank shot, precise shot, weapon focus, longbow.
Those are all bonus feats.
Yeah, if you're a Ranger, you're gonna have those anyway, plus like a bunch of other stuff. And this is the such a cool thing about arcane archers. So level 1, your arrows are always +1. So you always have +1 arrows, no matter what. Imbue arrow, you get to make your arrows do all kinds of cool stuff, have different damage. Like you've always got +2 arrows now. Seeker arrows, can't miss. +3, you've always got +3 arrows now. Phase arrows, your arrows can phase through objects and hit things on the other side of an object. And using stuff like imbue arrow, you can imbue it with like fireballs. So
yeah, baby.
Somebody casts a fireball into your arrow, and they're like, your enemy is like, I'm going to go hide behind this wall. You're like, no, you're not. You fireball them from behind a wall. Okay, you've always got +4 arrows, hail of arrows. I actually don't think I've ever gotten an arcane archer up to this level, so I don't actually know what hail of arrows does. I'm assuming.
I will tell you what Hail of Arrows does because
Sure.
I specifically built a character around Hail of Arrows. It splits your arrows into multiple arrows. Well, I think you get to fire additional arrows is what it is. But yeah, no, I made a really crazy build one time using the Psionic Handbook, the Complete Psionist, and the Arcane Archer, as well as a type of arrow that I found in a Mont Cook's book, where I took soul knife into soul bow. I don't remember what I did to get my spells. I think I took a level of sorcerer or something. But and then I went into arcane archer, and yeah. So here we go. Hail of arrows. In lieu of a regular attacks, once per day, our lethal archer can fire an arrow at each and every target within range, to a maximum of 1 target for every arcane archer level he or she has earned. And each attack uses the archer's primary attack bonus, and each enemy only will be targeted by a single arrow.
That is crazy.
So, yeah, so I would do that, and then because there's a feat you can take that lets you change the there's a feat you can take for soul knife that lets you change the weapon that your soul knife turns into. It's supposed to be used to go from like short swords to long swords, but we made a homebrew version where if you take the exotic weapon proficiency or the weapon proficiency and then the focus for that weapon, you can do it. You can take the soul knife. You can spend an additional feat to switch it into whatever that specific weapon you want is, in case you want like a scythe or something.
That sounds extremely like what we did in my Temple of Elemental Evil game, because we had a soul knife. He was like, I want to have a soul scythe. And that's pretty much what we did too.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not like it's a big deal. Like they're spending, they know there's a feat that they get a class ability anyway that has that. So really, they're spending a feat just to be. They're spending 2 feats because they're spending the weapon proficiency feat, and then they're also spending the feat to like be able to turn their soul knife into it. So I don't feel like that's a big like woo way overpowered type of thing. But anyway, so the long story short is the arrow that I fire because of the from the Mont Cook's book splits into 5 arrows, and then the soul bow has an ability kind of like hail of arrows, and then you hail of arrows, and you fire enough arrows to black out the sun, straight up 300 style.
Then we will fight in the shade. Oh man, it's
So
cool.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
And I just love the Arcane Archer so much. It is a ridiculous class. Uh, so like when I played Neverwinter Nights, I played it as an Arcane Archer. It was crazy. Now the game the the Temple of Elemental Evil, the computer game by Troika. If you get all the mod packs and all the new updated versions and the Temple Plus mod, you can be Arcane Archers in that as well, and they're really good. I believe uh, all of the new Pathfinder games, like Pathfinder Kingmaker and Wrath of the Righteous, I believe you can be either Arcane Archers or like a Magus version of the Arcane Archer.
Mm.
So plenty of opportunities there, to play on older or modern uh, games if you're just really jonesing to play an Arcane Archer. I just love that guy. Just such a great class.
But
And
yeah,
also,
no, go ahead.
no, you can go ahead.
I was gonna say like I really like the idea of like of people just going full on into ranged combat despite it being kind of terrible in 3.5.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you just never really see people go like even the Rangers. They're always like 2 weapon fighter Rangers.
Right. Because there's so much more damage you can get out of something like that. But full ranged attack, especially because you get your point blank shot and stuff like that. So suddenly you're not taking huge detriments to your attacks. Like it's totally viable. Like I don't know, man. I feel like
The
it gets a lot of hate.
uh, I think the reason why it's so unpopular is because of damage reduction. You're doing a lot of attacks, but a lot of times they don't have enough penetration to go through it. Um, One of the feats I missed when I was making my ranger for 3.5 from Pathfinder was clustered shots, which applies damage reduction only to the first attack.
Oh, that's a good.
Um,
Yeah, they're so much better in Pathfinder. It is
yeah,
so crazy.
yeah, and it's so as if you're playing a ranger, at some point you start need to investing in like uh, you know oils of like alignments. You start having silver and cold iron. You have to have this whole armory of different arrow types behind you in order to get through a lot of these damage reduction kind of situations.
I mean,
And,
that's true, but at the same time, like I don't know. Like I feel like damage reduction in 3.5 at least. I know in third edition it was insane, but in 3.5 edition, like it's not really that bad. So I mean, you get yourself like a good like compound bow or like a really good masterwork bow or whatever, and like you just let arrows fly. Like, oh, they absorbed like 5 damage off my attack or whatever. Like, you're not losing that much damage out of something like that.
It really depends because like at the lower levels, if you come up with something that's got damage reduction, like let's say you're a low level ranger, right? So it's not your favorite enemy, so you're not getting bonuses. You might not have a composite bow yet, so you might not be getting your strength bonus. So you're just getting a straight 1d8, like maybe +1 for your point blank shot. So if they got 5, that's going to cut into your damage. Now you get a little bit higher level and you start stacking stuff, you can get by that. But yeah, man, like in 3.0 and 3.5, it was really hit or miss. But if you had a dungeon master who was using damage reduction like on a consistent basis, like you could run into some situations, man, if you weren't prepared.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay, so remind me. In 3.5, when bows are enchanted, do they bestow the enchantments onto their arrows?
I do not
Yes,
remember.
they do. And additionally you can have arrows that are also have a different magical effect. It takes the higher bonus, and there's still like a total limit of how powerful
Right.
the uh, total enchantment can be. They don't stack. They just like how most things do in 3.5. But yeah, if you get +1 bow, your attacks from that bow are considered magical for the purpose of damage reduction.
Right. And so I mean like your fire like I mean even without arcane archer, right? Let's say you're just a regular ranger who happens to have a bow. Like you could get, a +2 or +3 bow and explode like flaming or whatever on it, and you're bypassing like a lot of you're bypassing most things damage reduction right there, and regeneration with just flaming or acid touched or whatever it's called. I can't remember. Corrosive, I think, is the ability. Yeah, corrosive, and then corrosive burst, based on what level you are and how much money you got to spend on your bow. uh so I mean, even if it's got 5 damage reduction and 5 regeneration, you got acid. Acid bypasses, like, I want to say 75% of all monster regeneration, and a +3 bonus on that's going to get you through, you know, half the average damage reduction monsters out there, unless you're like talking big boy dragons and Tarrasques and things like that. But if you're fighting that stuff, you piss the DM off anyway, so you're screwed.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, it can get pretty expensive. I remember with my ranger, I like to keep the plus enchantments on my bows, and my arrows were the special effects. They'd be +1 special effect, um, and it's costly and expensive for one shot use.
It
But
is, but it also saved your life a lot in that game
it
because
did.
number one, that game was incredibly deadly and insane. And number two, um, I play with a group of people, and myself included. Um, we don't always, we don't always play in the smart, methodical, let's explore all this stuff and choose from these different options. And like a lot of time we just kind of go, you know. And if you do that, and I prefer playing like that, I think it's a more fun game. But if you do that, you can run into some stuff that you can't handle. And that happened a couple times. And Charles was there to pull butts out of fires with his preparedness.
I
Right.
was a bit under the impression that a lot more people were dying before I joined that particular game.
That is true. That is absolutely true.
I mean, on the benefit here, uh, of this prestige class is you do get the +5 enhanced arrows automatically. So I mean, that just leaves more enchantments for the bow. Um, so your arrows are always +5. You throw a good corrosive, or a good like corrosive burst and flaming burst, and there's the trifecta one too that's actually all three. Um, which I think that one's like a +5 enhancement bonus itself, and it does ice, fire, and acid naturally. And you got your that's your +10 right there. So you're good to go until you hit epic level with that. Like
Yeah, that's
that's
I hadn't even thought about that, but that's just such a great ability where like all these other classes, they're trying to be like, okay, well, I'm this level, so I should have a +2, and I want to have something else on it, so I've got flaming. Okay. You don't have to deal with those pluses. You're just like, all right, man, I'm going full on abilities, and I also have the pluses.
Right.
So my
And
stuff's
that's
crazy.
just nuts. That's just crazy. Um,
That's
now,
something I
like
like.
the more I look at it, it is almost leaning on the side of an overpowered class, prestige class, simply because of those enhancement bonuses.
I mean, when I played mine in Pathfinder, I very much found it to be overpowered. And they are a little bit more overpowered in Pathfinder than they are here, as most things are. But yeah, I was literally my buddy Josh ran this game, and I was literally like just one-shotting everything because he played this game and it was a one-on-one game. So he made this game where he was like the main enemies are going to be like evil outsiders and humans, and it's an evil game. So I was like, okay, then I make my favorite enemies evil outsiders and humans. I get a bow that's evil outsider bane. I get a bow that's human bane. Um, and I'm just going around and I'm just one-shotting everything. And in Pathfinder, you can like you don't necessarily have to like just choose one enemy. If you like, you can spread yourself around. And I think I might have taken specific feats for that. But you can be like, okay, I shoot this guy and this guy and this guy, and one dude would just explode, the next one would explode, the next one would explode. It got crazy. So yeah, they're
I
they're
mean,
very they're very very powerful.
I mean, in 3.5, you don't. If I'm not mistaken, I don't believe you're beholden to attacking one target. But I think you do have to call the shots before you roll.
Yeah,
So if you wanted to hit, if there were four dudes around you and you wanted to shoot four dudes, you just be like, this dice is for that guy, this dice is for that guy, this guy, and so on and so forth.
100%. So Arcane Archer, amazing class. If you haven't played it before, play one. They are great. And if you don't have a 3.5 group right now, there's all kinds of different games that you can play to get your Arcane Archer fix. And I don't have much to say about the Arcane Trickster. I just wanted to touch on this because I've never actually played an Arcane Trickster. I think the name is really stupid, but here's the thing. I was reading over this class and I fell in love with it so much because I understood what it was. And the first thing that made me kind of understand what it was is this word right here, legerdemain. So I would like to pose this question to the group. Have you guys ever seen this word legerdemain used before?
Nope.
I have not, outside of the class itself.
I have in one place, and that is the Fritz Leiber novels, or not novels, but the Fritz Leiber stories, Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser. So if you guys have not read Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, you are missing out. Read Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser. They're amazing. They're proto D&D. They're stuff that Gary Gygax was reading when he created D&D. And when you read them, you can go back and you're just like, this is D&D. This is wow. Uh, like this is what Gary was trying to, distill, and he did that. And legerdemain means like magic tricks, like little like parlor tricks, like pulling a quarter out of somebody's ear or like pulling a rabbit out of a hat or something.
Okay.
So, the arcade you get ranged legerdemain, so you can just, I think in this version you can use it to like pickpocket and stuff like that. But I mean everybody knows what this class is. It's just like it's a rogue slash wizard, just mixed, and they can be really good or they can be really bad. But I just saw this and I was like, this is the Grey Mouser. Like whoever wrote this class wanted to make the Grey Mouser, and they did. So
That's
that's
so
it.
funny. Open lock at 30 feet.
It sounds weird, but that could be super useful for a
That could be
thief.
life-saving.
Yep. But no, that's really it. I mean, everybody knows what this this class is. So that's really all I had to say about it. I do know a guy who this class right here, the Archmage, this is like his favorite class in the world, and he talks about it all the time. But what about Charles? What about you? What were the classes that you were just really jonesing to talk about?
Well, the sorry, let me clear my throat here. Well, the Knight of the Chalice I mentioned before, and it's just one of my personal favorites. Just fun. It's not brokenly powerful, or maybe not even really that good, but it's good at what it does, and it's fun. As you know, another class I have played before is a Red Wizard, and they are one of the prestige classes that are wizard but better. They get a lot of abilities in it. They pick a school and they become really good at that school of magic. They have to drop another an additional school of magic though, so you are very focused in what you do. And for if you have a type of magic that you like and you want to be a very strong evoker or something like that, blasting kind of wizard, this would be a good fix for that. If you don't care so much about some of the other schools, like maybe you don't care much about illusions or enchantments or divination, necromancy, they're good and strong and everything like that, but for what you're doing, maybe you don't care about those. And my personal favorite is transmutation, uh, because eventually, one, there's a lot of really good buff spells and transmutations, and I really like buffing party members. It's the school that has things like haste, keen edge, a lot of the really good buff spells that would make party members really like having around. And then once you get at higher levels, you get disintegration, which is I believe 2d6 damage per caster level. Yep. And you can turn people to dust, and you combine that with meta magic and the like, and you can just be doing really gross amounts of damage on a consistent basis, until you run out those spells. So, and you still use your low level slots to help everyone else, and you have this like really powerful spell in your back pocket if you like disintegrating enemies. Yeah, it's one of the prestige classes that I think is just wizard better. Only real downside, I think, or one of the downsides is they're any non-good, and they're a human from which may or may not be an issue for you, and a human from they. So the red wizards have certain lore attached to it, that can be a burden if you're game masters kind of enforcing that kind of thing, or maybe not even allowing you to become one because of the kind of lore implications of it. But it's a very strong wizard. I like the specialization of it. I think it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. And just speaking of casters, like transmutation casters, in Pathfinder Kingmaker, there's a character that you don't start with this character, but you can get this character pretty early on, who is an arcane trickster, or everybody builds this character as an arcane trickster, and they're a transmutation specialist. So yeah, all that stuff that you were just talking about, as you were talking about it, I was just going back to my playthrough and being like, yeah, it's really good to have bull strength all the time. It's really good to have enlarge all the time. It's really good to have, all this different um, crazy stuff that just buffs your whole party like all the time.
Yeah, and it can help your party save money on magical items, because if you have bull strength on the fighter going a lot of times, maybe they don't need to get a magic item that will boost their strength for much longer of a period of time. um, they can kind of hold off on that, or maybe get something that increases their constitution first instead. If you're giving them a strength buff, you can make them grow. You can shrink the dexterity classes, and it's transmutation. It's a really good school of magic. One of my personal favorites.
I think we're also forgetting some of the more obscure shenanigans you can get into with transmutation, uh, like shrinking giant boulders and then throwing them with a sling and at will dispelling your spell, or shrinking a log and firing it from a crossbow and then at will dispelling your spell and hitting somebody with a ballista bolt.
That's what I love about D&D, man. Just the creativity. But there's so much here, and like so speaking of Red Wizards, I think just two things here. Number one, we all saw the D&D movie.
Oh yeah.
So I think that, like, I don't know if 5e has a Red Wizard class. They might not. I have no idea. But I think now that that movie came out, like a lot more people will be familiar with the Red Wizards. So, this might be something that people want to look at.
From my understanding, there's only like the basic classes. There's no prestige classes at all in fifth edition. Um, there's just the specializations you go into, and I don't believe there's one for a Wizards of Thay situation.
And also, have you guys ever played Baldur's Gate 1 or Baldur's Gate 2?
I have not.
I played a little bit.
They are fantastic. Definitely go back, check them out if you're into that kind of thing. But one of the greatest characters in history uh, is is in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. And like everybody knows who Minsk is, but in Baldur's Gate 1, Minsk, like his main rival, this dude that's trying to kill him, is this red wizard named Edwin. And Edwin is one of the greatest characters of all time because he is so mustache twirlingly evil and like just so over the top, and just he's absolutely evil, and he's got like a 19 intelligence when you get him. So he's a super genius, but he thinks that everyone is so far below him that he just like he doesn't consider anyone or anything a threat. So he will literally just like telegraph his plans to people who should not hear his plans because he thinks that they're too stupid to understand them. It's great, man. He's just such a great guy. Like he'll just be talking and he'll be like, yeah, you should go do that. Yes, these stupid fools will never catch on to my plans. Did you say something, Edwin? No.
No, you fool.
Like, we can fucking hear you,
you,
dude.
the, the other thing that I like is, if we're talking about the Red Wizard thing, we really gotta remember, like, we got the Red Wizard Guardians or whatever they were from the Complete Warrior. Those guys, like, I mean, like, if we're talking like lore wise and your GM's like not being a jerk about it, you could totally like have just the most amazing duo, I think. And if you got them working, if you got a couple of people that work really well together, I think that like the warrior class and the Red Wizard of the Thay would just make an unstoppable duo, like, to just push through all these, like pretty much anything your GM could throw at you.
Yeah, it would be insane.
It
But
it it is kind of fun, role play wise, in my opinion, when you have a one player character who is like somehow like listens to, otherwise kind of, you know, obeys another party member, um, or serves them. It's kind of, it can be a fun dynamic if both players are into it. You kind of have to trust uh, the other player quite a bit, though.
yeah, I mean, for like the main group that I play with, we've been playing together for 20 years, so I think that would be a lot of fun. But if I was like meeting up with new people, like I'm not sure I would go that route right away. I'd
Yeah,
have to, have some rapport built up.
yeah.
Right.
But Charles, did you have anything else that you wanted to kind of top off with the Red Wizard?
Not much. Yeah, they they super specialize in their school of magic, and it can be very good, and lots of different options. Some options I think are better than others, but everyone has their own opinion, and there's different circumstances and everything like that. It's like it's a wizard but better in most regards, um, and yeah, very good wizard class. My personal favorites of the wizard schools as far as how it works. Um, and my next prestige class is kind of a little bit related. It's the Dragon Disciple,
Oh,
because
Dragon
there are
Disciple.
there are so many different ways you can go about it and different shenanigans you can do with it.
I have got to say this is probably the most depending on your opinion, either famous or infamous class in 3.5. And it has not gone anywhere. Like it's been in third 3.5. I think it might have made an appearance in fourth edition. I know it did in fifth edition at some point. It definitely made it to Pathfinder. It's insane in Pathfinder. So
Yeah,
it's still around.
yeah, yeah, it's you very good. Um, you know, the main idea with it going with the base classes would be you get into it by being a sorcerer uh, or bard, and if you have enough patience with the leveling up, you only need one level of it. So you need a knowledge, arcane eight ranks, which is takes a while to do if you take one level bard and then go fire the rest of the way. But so you could do some of these interesting builds where you go more heavy towards the martial side of things with this class, or you could go with your bard or sorcerer and still get you know some magic, but you also have these more martial abilities, uh, decent base attack bonus, good fort and will saves, which are the two most important saves in my opinion, and just a lot of really neat abilities that you can't really get otherwise.
Yeah, so this class holds a kind of special place for me because in the first game that I ever ran, the longest running game, one of my players became a Dragon Disciple. He was a Stone Child uh, from the Races of Stone, which gave him like all this different strength. So he was getting like +8 strength from being a Stone Child. And then, he took the Stone Child class for X amount of levels, and then he took Fighter for a little while, and then he took Sorcerer for one level. And then by that time, he'd built up the points that he needed, and he went into Dragon Disciple. And at that point, like he was unstoppable. This dude was just unkillable. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Now, you do have to kind of decide when you're going into it what your approach to becoming a Dragon Disciple is going to be, what kind of things you want to use, because it's not straightforward exactly. And it's easy to just kind of be mediocre in everything. But it has a lot of potential, and it's quite fun and flavorful.
Yeah, it's a great class. And again, if you play Kingmaker or Wrath of the Righteous, they're in there. The Temple of Elemental Evil by Troika. If you get all the mods, they're in there. And I believe you can be a Dragon Disciple in Neverwinter Nights as well.
You know, I guess I have to be the dissenting voice here. I don't like Dragon Disciple. I think I think it's kind of silly that you would spend like 10 levels essentially becoming a worse half dragon. Because I mean, half dragon's just so much better than the dragon disciple. You get
Yeah, and
more
I it
strength, more
and it
natural armor.
and it already it says here like you cannot be a half dragon. Just straight up says that. Like can't do it. Can't be a half dragon.
Yeah, like you if you're large sized, you can get wings. You can't. The only thing I'm seeing that this brings to the table is blind sense. Like, I mean, 3 level adjustment versus 10 levels in a class that gives you less stuff and blind sense.
Well, the thing about half dragons though is it's a template, and it has a +3 level adjustment, and it's if your game master's not allowing you to play as half dragons, half celestials, and things like that, then it is an option. Where for a lot of players, I mean, if I had a player come up and be like, "Oh, hey, can I be playing a half dragon?" My knee-jerk reaction would be to tell them no, just because my games tend to be a bit. Uh, uh, I mean, it's funny you say grounded for D&D because all the other crazy stuff and magic and everything like that. But it is level adjustments, and it is a bit more, harder to balance with other players unless everyone's going to be doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. Like, templates oftentimes like feel like they lean a little heavy. I don't really know what the breath weapon ability is like for Dragon Disciple. I just know that it does 48 because I can see that here. Can you scroll down to it real quick, actually, so I can make a educated statement here? Uh, Third level Dragon Disciple. Was it what is it? Once per day or one every 1d4 rounds?
Let's see. Last side. Do. Third level breath
Once per day.
weapon. Okay.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, that's like, and that's just another reason right there. Like, so yeah, like the half dragons, they get their breath weapon. I think every 1d4 rounds, just like a regular dragon does. Um, no, it's only once per day also. So I mean, they get to get it once per day. It actually does deal less damage than this, but like I said, they get more strength. If they're large size, they get wings. Like they get pretty much all the same bonuses that this gets. I don't. Does it say that they gain? I don't think these guys gain immunity to the type, right?
Let's see. Do they? Let's see. Natural armor, claws and bite, breath weapon,
Yes,
ability boost.
at level 10, the dragon.
Ah.
Yeah,
Oh, the dragon hypothesis. Okay, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you
So I
gotta wait till
mean,
level 10 though. So that's like you're
yeah,
almost level 20 by that time.
right. If
yeah.
you're already level 10 in a prestige class, like you're rounded on 20, and you're gonna be getting into some big boy shenanigans pretty quick. So I mean,
You
uh,
could also, if you're using templates, you could be a dragon disciple who is a half celestial or stone child. Um,
right. Yeah, I mean, it's got its place. I think if you really like wanna kind of be a dragon but not be a dragon, but I don't know. I feel like it's outshined by just being a half dragon. Uh, like if you're starting at more than fourth level, really, you're being a half dragon's not gonna be that big of a deal. If you know how to make leveling charts, you can easily turn the template for half dragon into a leveling chart. Not take any classes for your first 3 levels, be level 4, just like everybody else, and just have half a class, or have the half dragon be your first 3 levels. So I mean, like, but also, if you've got the Draconomicon, you can play a kobold and then do the like dragon descendant kobold thing. Like, I don't know. I feel like Dragon Disciple is really outshined by a lot of other ways to be a dragon without being a dragon.
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of why I said famous or infamous, at the beginning. Um, and I would like to say here, check this out. D12 hit die.
I do have a D12 in die.
D12 hit die. Look at that.
Yeah.
So the one person that I've known to play a Dragon Disciple, basically the entire reason that this person did it was just for the strength boosts and the armor class boosts. That was it. Because like he had already gotten all the strength that he could get from Stone Child. He had already like done all the other stuff that he could do. And he was just looking around for stuff like, how can I get more strength? What can I possibly do to get some more strength? And then he came across Dragon Disciple and he was like, oh, okay, let's do that.
Charles, you were trying to say something?
No, that's the it's just maybe amusing because I've known players like that where they're just where they see that and they're like, yeah, how can I get the most possible X I can possibly get? How can I do the most damage, get the most hit points? And the thought of someone going through Red Dragon Disciples, I mean, yeah, he got the boost, and they also probably got Blind Sense and Wings, and all the other stuff was just icing for them. And the 12 hit dice, that's a lot because going into this, you're coming from either a bard or a sorcerer, which sorcerers in 3.5, they only had D4 hit
Yeah,
points.
D4. So unless you
Yeah.
did like that battle sorcerer, or I think maybe you could try like a favored soul or something like that. But yeah, you're not coming at this with a lot of hit points to begin with.
Favorite soul, I think that's divine spell casting, and
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe
so
not that one.
that wouldn't be. But
Well, I mean, spellcasting is not a prereq, right? It's just knowledge
no,
arcana.
no, it's knowledge arcana, and you have to have the ability to cast arcane spells without preparation.
Without preparation. Okay.
So
Yeah, I
bard,
didn't see
sorcerers,
that.
and the like. And bards, if you start as a bard and then you go Red Giant Disciple, you can be a really beefy bard.
Oh yeah. Oh, also, you might be able to do like a hexblade
Yeah. Oh yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe get there faster.
There's definitely some nice already mage combat oriented classes that would be better off than I think going like bard. I don't know. I feel like I like this class in the sense that it's another option to reach those goals. But like I said, like if your end goal was to become a dragon, like be a kobold, become become a dragon that way, or just be like so many other things you could do. But like knowledge arcana and arcane spellcasting, like it doesn't say what level. There's no level requirement to that. So realistically, since this is a prestige class and it doesn't affect experience gain, which to be fair, I don't know a lot of people that pay enough attention to being out of sync with your multi-classing to actually even put in the penalization for experience gain when you're out of sync with your multi-classing. But if you have somebody who is like that, this is a prestige class, so it's not going to matter. You could go like one level of wizard or whatever, or sorcerer, I mean, and then just be like 5 levels of or 5 or 6 levels of barbarian, and just be like, oh well, now I've a rage mage who just destroys space with all this extra strength and constitution I've got at my disposal.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's the long and the short of it. Yeah, so it's crazy. It's another one of those classes that, it has its place, but I don't know. I think it's interesting. I might want to play one day, but it's probably not the the first one I would pick.
Right. All right. I think I want to toss mine out here on the table this time. If we're done talking about this, you got anything else to say?
Yeah, it's a prestige class that you can go several different routes with. It has quite a bit of flexibility in the kinds of ways you can go about it, and it's a pretty fun one. Um, and yeah, that's the long and end of it.
All right. Yes. So we have the allocator here. Now it's kind of a silly class. It's not really there for those people that are trying to min-max shenanigans. Um, I really take it because that first ability right there on the is just the kicker for me. But let's start with the requirements. You got the +3 base attack bonus, which is pretty easy if you're for somebody who's like, oh, I'm gonna take a few levels of fighter or something, or whatever you're gonna take there. I mean, if you're doing like Soul Knife, I think they get +3 at like level 4 or 5, because I think they have average base attack bonus. 8 levels of concentration can be handled pretty quick with a quick multi-class dip into something else, unless you're playing Soul Knife, and the ability to manifest level 1 powers. Now that's where it gets kind of tricky if you want to like squeeze this in there, but it's really kind of a bread and butter follow up to Soul Knife. So you're kind of already expected to have power points. You can take a feat to give yourself a random level 1 power, so you don't have to take like actual Scion levels or anything like that to get into this. Um, and then you need mobility and spring attack. And this class, if that doesn't tell you what this class does, like go home, because that's what this class is all about. It's about getting in, getting out, and messing with the shenanigans. So this first ability right here is my favorite thing about it. Scorn Earth. You hate the ground so much that you never touch it again.
I love it.
At first level, the allocator's feet lift from the ground, and from now on, she can float above the ground instead of walking. She glides along, unconcerned with earthy terrain, while she remains within 1 foot of the flat surface of any solid or liquid. Key point right there. Solid or liquid, take normal actions, make normal attacks, and move at normal speed. Even run at 4 times normal speed. But they can, if they're above 1 foot, their speed diminishes to 10 feet per round. But it does not say that there is a height limit, uh, except for the fact that it says as if while she remains within 1 foot of the surface, she can make melee and ranged attacks normally, but if she moves any higher, incurs the penalties of melee and ranged attack rolls as if they were subject to psionic levitate. So can't really remember what the penalties for levitate. If there's a, it doesn't what the penalties for levitate are, but it doesn't say that there's a height like maximum, and it does not say that the she's limited like levitate. So theoretically, with this class, you can just always be out of range. You're moving really slow, but you're just always in the air, just looking down on everybody like ha 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 ha.
This would be kind of a cool class to take if you were a drow and you had that like drow levitate feat.
Right. um, we got sidestep charge here, which is kind of cool. Uh, which gains sidestep charge as a bonus feat, even though they don't meet, even if they don't meet the prerequisites. Opportunistic strike, they get hyper awareness of spatial relations. They get +2 insight bonuses on attack rolls, and then that goes up as they level up. Dimension step, essentially just dimension door once per day, and cannot bring anybody else with them. They get flanker at 4th level. They can flank enemies from seemingly impossible angles, designated any adjacent square as the square from which flanking against an ally is determined, including the square where she stands as normal. She can designate the square at the beginning of her turn or at any time during her turn. The designated square remains her effective square for flanking until she's no longer adjacent to it. So you can theoretically declare the space opposite you for flanking and just automatically have flanking without doing anything. You're just flanking that person all the time.
I already love this class. This is fantastic.
Transporter gains psionic teleport and psionic plane shift, which is pretty cool. Just the ability to be, I'm in a different plane of existence now, as though they were third level powers. Capricious step, they get an extra 5-foot step during any round that they don't perform another movement. So you can 5-foot step in, take your attack, and 5-foot step back out.
That is the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life.
And it does not provoke attacks of opportunity. The character can even just do 2 5-foot steps, which I have definitely used to close range on somebody with a spear before.
Oh man,
And then
that kills so many builds. Like all those old builds with like reach and combat reflexes just kills them.
Yeah, because you just get to within 10 feet and you're like, oh, I'm going to take, like, or they come to within 10, they come in and they attack you and then they back off or whatever. And you're like, oh, I'm going to take a 5-foot step. And I'm going to take another 5-foot step. And then you're in their territory.
This could be used for a reach build because you can basically 10-foot step. Take a 5-foot step, stab one with a reach weapon, then take another 5 feet. And then they can't 5-foot step to get to you. They have to provoke attack of opportunity to reach you.
Right.
Yep.
We got Dimension Spring Attack. At 9th level, they can use their Dimension Step ability in conjunction with Spring Attack once per day. Can only be used against opponents within 60 feet and line of sight. They Dimension Step up to the target, Spring Attack, and then Dimension Step to return to their starting position.
I love this class.
And then the coup de grace here at 10th level, they get Accelerate action. They can accelerate themselves and take more actions than normal. They can take a total of 5 rounds or do it for 5 rounds per day. They can choose to parcel it out however they want. They can make a full attack while accelerated. An allocator can make 1 extra attack with any weapon they're holding. An attack made using the full base attack bonus. If the attacker uses her accelerated action to move, she gains enhancement bonus up to 30 extra feet. Could use it to manifest extra powers. If they wanted to manifest extra powers, they can give themselves extra dodge bonus or reflex save bonus. It's just a really good, like, thiefy kind of shenanigans character. And I've used it a lot, and I really like it. Sometimes it feels kind of bad when you're doing things with something like Soul Knife and you're just not getting levels in your Soul Knife while you're taking 10 levels of this. But man, are the things you can do with just mobility and spring attack is so fun. Then the ability to do that from 60 feet away, declare things flanked just because you feel like it. It's pretty amazing.
And this class just looks like it would be a blast to play.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah, haste for martial characters, one of my favorite spells, and to get that as an ability is great flexibility. And all the other things too, the dimension door and everything like that, being able to move around, being able to go to other planes, because at higher levels sometimes there's things that can put you in other planes, and if you don't have a way to get back, your character's, you know,
Oh
basically the
yeah,
same as being dead or worse than dead. In a lot of
I've definitely
situations.
lost a number of characters to having them randomly teleported to a different plane and being like, oh well, I guess I don't have a way to get back from Valhalla, so I'm stuck
Same,
here.
same. I love this game because like one of my players, I guarantee that if I showed this class to him, they would just be like, yes, I want to play that because this person takes mobility all the time, and mobility always gets them killed, always, because
Yeah,
they're basically taking risks that they might not normally take.
yeah. Me and my buddies, we had a house rule that we would use that came into play with bags of holding and holes, portable holes. Because you like, there's a rule that's like, if you put a portable hole inside of a bag of holding or vice versa, it tears a hole in reality, and everybody has to roll not to instantly die or whatever. We house ruled that to every person in a certain radius rolled randomly and then ended up on on one of the different planes of existence when that happened. And so there was a number of times when my friend Toothy Bugbane would would just take his portable hole and slam it inside of a bag of holding and be like, "Everybody goes everywhere."
Oh, that's awesome.
And so yeah, things like dimension door and just so good, so solid.
Yeah, you're like,
Um,
I can get back.
yeah, I'm back. I've man,
Or you find yourself on the front line and you're really hurt, you can, go in the back and, survive the encounter.
yeah. I mean, being able to dimension step away and then being like, "Yep, I'm now away," and then again, you just have like I said, worst case Ontario, you've got score and Earth, and you can move it 10 feet per round when you're off the ground, and you can dimension step 60 feet. It doesn't say what direction. So you can go straight up if you want, and then you just keep going up, and you're away. Um,
That is cool.
so yeah, that's fun. But yeah, so that was my first class I kind of wanted to talk about and show off. Uh, Again, it's from the expanded Psionics Handbook, one of my favorites. My next one is also going to be from the expanded Psionics Handbook. Uh, and this one's kind of just for the giggles as well. It's called Thrall Herd. Um, Let me make sure I got that word. Yeah, Thrall Herd. If you could look that one up for us real quick.
On it. Dunions.
All right. So we've all played the Paladin with leadership and nonsense, right? Come on. If you haven't, I mean, you're missing out. Because,
Oh, Charles definitely has.
I have.
That was a
well,
great character.
let me introduce you to the psionic version.
This is so
So,
cool. I haven't even read anything about it, but it's like I'm jiving with it already.
we got our requirements here: diplomacy 4, knowledge psionics 8, manifestor level 5th with the ability to manifest mind link, and the feat inquisitor. I don't remember what that does, but it's not a big deal. It's just a feat, right? Who cares? But yeah, so right, I mean, you'll notice terrible base attack bonus, terrible fortitude, terrible reflex saves, good will saves. And our first ability here is called Thrall Herd. And as we come down to read about that, um, Thrall Herds who just entered the class send out subtle psionic call or psychic calls for servants. That call is answered. Essentially, the character gains something akin to the leadership feat, but with some very important differences. Those who answer the Thrallherd's call are not referred to as cohorts or followers, but rather as thralls and believers, respectively. They do not appear because they admire the character and want to serve them, but because a hidden psionic resonance connects the Thrallherd and her servants. As the leadership feat, the Thrallherd has leadership score, and that determines your number of people that you can have. It also goes on to say something along the lines of they only have to be one level lower than you as opposed to two, like a cohort does. And if you lose a follower for any reason, you automatically find a new one within 24 hours, which is much different than the leadership skill, where I believe you have to actually go wait a month or something to get a new one. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
it's pretty big.
It's a pretty long time. So yours is back within 24 hours because what? Why not? We're bending the wills of the weak-minded to do our bidding.
I would just love to play a character like this or see one played, where you're just like sending your cohort guy into danger all the time. You're like, oh, all right, well, lost another one. Who's next? And you just have like this line behind you.
All right, and then at third level we get Psionic Charm. I mean, everybody knows the charm spell, not any different, except it can be it has something to do. There's a thing that you can do with the power points where you spend extra power points to be able to hit things that are a higher HD. Psionic Dominate, which is dominate. You got Greater Dominate. Uh, can hit animals, fae, giants, magical beasts, and monstrous humanoids. And then Superior Dominate, which hits aberrations, dragons, elementals, and outsiders. And then finally, Twofold Master. They can have a second cohort in their herd equal to their Thrallherd's level -2, even if their leadership score would indicate a higher level Thrall.
That is amazing. So you're basically playing 3 characters, and you have all these like level
Believers.
1s, 2s, 3s, 4, 5. Just how many you got here? What's the cap out at 135?
Yeah,
135 first level
135 level
followers.
ones.
got 135 level ones just hanging out, doing whatever you want them to do. You start your own little town. Me and my friends looked through. I don't remember what the deities and demigods book. I don't remember what it was actually called in 3.5.
I
But
think it was deities and demigods.
yeah, so we were looking through the deities and demigods book. We found out how many followers you actually have to have um, to become a deity, and so there was a lot of taking leadership and epic leadership and yada yada to try to reach godhood.
Actually, I think I do know which one you're talking about. That might have been Manual of the Plains.
I think it is Manual of the Plains. I think you're right. Um, yeah, so that's always fun. But when you've just got straight up believers, and they come back in 24 hours. You're just, well, I mean, who cares if I throw 135 minions at the bad guy? Because even if he kills them all, I get 135 more minions tomorrow.
Yep, just revolving door situation. Like I got infinite minions.
I mean,
It's
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's quite baffling to me because I believe leadership is from the core rules, and I believe leadership is like the most commonly banned feat from the core rule books. And then they made a prestige class. Well, there's actually multiple prestige classes that revolve around leadership, but this one in particular is quite amusing, especially with the getting the 2 cohorts at the final level of it. Um, yeah, it's quite mind-boggling as far as the amount of shenanigans you could potentially do.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, just even just you know, have like for some goofy stuff, like if you were like, oh, I wanted to do like a war campaign or something, and you're like, oh, well, I've got my castle, I need to fill it up. I guess I'm going to take a level in Thrall Herd, and suddenly you've got 30, 40, 50 people living in your castle. 135 level 1 people in your castle. You've actually got a little army to go to war with. So
That would be an awesome game. It would also be just a really cool game to like, have that be your main high level game, but then from time to time go and do just like low level stuff where you're just playing as like one of the thralls or like, a
you know
group of the
what?
thralls.
That's so funny that you say that. I think I told you about it, and that might be why you're bringing it up. But if not, I'm going to remind you. After our games broke up, I was really desperate to find a game. And so I found an epic level game where we were all playing deities, using the book from the Manual of the Planes and all the rules and stuff that went with it. And it was really, the guy who was running it did not know how to handle epic level campaigns, let alone deity level campaigns. Um, but we had the conversation at a certain point after like 4 or 5 sessions of this, uh, when he realized that he just could not control us because we were literal deities. Like we were the bottom tier, but we just the deific powers are so insane. Um, so anyway, this dude just realized he could not control us. He was like, "Oh, well, I'm thinking about making it so that like you guys pick like you guys can make a character at a few different levels, and you'll send out your minions, and you'll be the one bestowing the quest on your minions, and you'll play as your minions going on the quests together." And I was like, "That sounds like a lot more fun, to be perfectly honest."
Yeah, that would be awesome. And you could tie it all together. And so, you could have these crazy cosmic level games, but like that's that's kind of an issue that I have with super high level play is that high level play is amazing, but you gotta come up with new insanity every week. Like,
Oh yeah.
so it would just be really cool if you could have, some weeks you're doing level one, maybe some weeks you've got a group of like, two, threes, fours, fives, tens, whatever. And then at the culmination of all this, crazy stuff that's going on in the world, you you get your, big 30 level party together and you go do something crazy.
Right. Or like, I mean, I think that it would be fun to I don't know, like, cuz I think it'd be fun sometime to run something where you kind of just get together with whoever's around, whenever they're around, and you just do something with like where they like play a couple of their thralls, and like, you or whatever, or their even just their minions, uh the believers or whatever, uh running around doing things, and then each person's kind of got their own castle with their own like group of people, and so you kind of like run 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 games, and then at the end of it all you get these people together, and like they've been screwing each other over, like, during each of their own sessions, and being like, oh, well, I broke into your castle and stole something from you, or I did something like oppressive to you, and now you're like, this is it, we're going to war. And it's just everybody just sends their armies out there to fight each other, to see who's going to be the last man standing and own the whole kingdom or whatever. I think that would be kind of a fun little way of having a game like play out.
Oh yeah.
Kind of reminds me a little bit of my first fifth edition game. In that we were starting at level 20, which uh, for me highlight about how easy the system is to do, because first game as experienced player, the level 20 character was not a problem for me to play as. But we were starting with gear. He was starting with his whole one of the items I had was a Holy Avenger, and I had in my background story that that's how he became a paladin adventurer, was when he first picked up the Holy Avenger, basically having it since he was level 1, storyline was. And the game master was like, wow, I'd really like to start, play a low-level game with level 1 characters where they start out with, a overpowered weapon for that level like that. And if you're playing like as like deities and also like the low-level adventures, that could be a fun thing to do, to put blessings on these characters so they can overcome challenges that they wouldn't be able to overcome maybe as uh, their lower levels. Or maybe that could even be a meta thing where the players themselves are the deity of their characters and they have boons, so many boons they could maybe grant the characters when they get into situations. A little bit of meta. Anyway, just that's homebrew
Yes,
ideas.
that's during the deity game. I actually did that. I went and I was using ChatGPT, which, by the way, if you haven't used ChatGPT to mess around with D&D stuff, I highly recommend it. But I was like, I'm a chaotic evil deity, or I'm a lawful evil deity. My pantheons are tyranny and yada yada. And I was like, develop me an artifact. And it gave me this crazy like crown with all these really cool abilities and stat bonuses and a penalty and a curse that was like, if you're wearing it, everybody that like, you're gonna have enemies showing up out of the woodworks trying to kill you and take it from you, and like all of this stuff. And I was like, this is an amazing artifact, like this is a really good artifact. And I was like, when we start doing our low level character stuff, I think it would be really fun for our deities to like bestow gifts onto like our minions. And that's really funny that you came up with that, like entirely separate of my telling that story.
Yeah, that's super awesome. And I also, what I would say to that is that would be a great place to use Weapons of Legacy. Because in Weapons of Legacy, I'm pretty sure there is actually a level 1 Holy Avenger, like that scales with you all the way up to 20. So that would just be a great way to do that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Weapons of Legacy has so many good uses. I remember one time in college, my friend was he was playing a Link character that he based on Link from Legend of Zelda, and I don't know why this idiot thought Link was mute, um, because Link is obviously not mute, but he was playing him as a silent protagonist, and so he was mute and knew sign language, and nobody else in the party took sign language as a as a language. So we were just like, "Why are you waving your hands at us? Stop that, you weird little man!" But
And
Player
nobody take
communication is important.
nobody takes comprehend languages. Nobody takes any of that.
but he gave himself the weapon a weapon of legacy that was intended to be the master sword, and he would do the dumbest things. Like one time, he was like, "Oh well, I drop my sword and pull out my bow," and so I was like, "Okay, you drop your sword, you pull out your bow," and this goblin runs up, grabs your sword, and runs off with it. And he's like, "He can't do that. That's my legacy weapon." And I was like, "You dropped it on
Hey,
the
you dropped it,
ground.
dude.
It was unattended, bro."
Got to keep an eye on that stuff.
Oh my
Got to keep an eye on
gosh.
it. That is fantastic.
Oh
So
yeah.
I've really enjoyed just talking about these prestige classes. Those last two, I did not know about. Like I'd never seen the Allocator. I'd never seen the Thrall Herd. So those were really cool. And I'm glad that after 20 some odd years of playing 3.0 and 3.5 that you can still learn new things.
Yeah, you can always. It's just, oh, there's so much stuff. Too much good stuff. It's an AM PM.
And that's
As
why
a
we're still talking about it 20 some odd years later.
the Thrallhold, I think, would make a pretty good villain because you have a reason about sending them out the lieutenants, their you know
Right.
their courts or version of that, and the players having to reach them. And once you get to them, if they can't dominate you, it looks like they aren't too big of a threat. But getting there and their hordes of enemies, that could be fun.
Right. And I mean, you got to remember that this class is still a manifester class. It still gets +1 level of existing manifestation class. So if you take this and you're doing pure Scion, you still have crazy psionic spells at your disposal. Like, they
Yeah,
might be. So,
yeah,
Yeah,
you're
like
only like one level behind or something like that.
yeah, this is just a bonus. Like, oh yeah, I can also control giant herds of human beings and, sentient creatures, but I'm also, I still have all these godly psionic powers.
right.
So that's cool stuff.
Don't.
I think the next time we all get together for a 3.5 game, that might have to be what we do.
Yeah, baby. I'm so glad. Every time I pull something random out of the Psionics Handbook, you're just like, I have never seen that, and this is so cool.
I love it, dude. I love those books. The splat books are just so good, but the thing is I had a lot of them, but there were a lot that I didn't have also. So I've just never really been able to dive into those in the same way that, I have been able to with the physical books that I had, back in the day.
Right.
So I'm always super psyched to, find out about all this new stuff. So do either of you guys have anything that we didn't cover, or anything that you'd like to kind of touch on before we end off today's episode?
Just if you guys, the viewers out there, have a favorite prestige class that we failed to mention here today, drop a comment. Let us know what it is, why you like it, what's cool about it. You know, maybe we'll bring it up next time.
Absolutely. And send us your messages as well. We got a couple of messages for the mailbag next time. Um, I wanted to have at least, three or four to really go through, but yeah, drop us a comment, send us a message, let us know, and we'll you know, we might be talking about your stuff on the next show. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to end off today's episode. Thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.